And so the real question is that in a society where you've got perfect laws and you've got perfect police, why should you be concerned about violations of your privacy if you're not a criminal? And so I try to think about this, and this is the best explanation I have for that, and that is that a criminal, somebody who knows they're up to no good, they live life looking over their shoulder. They're worried about getting busted, and they're thinking, and every time they do something, about whether or not it's going to end up exposing them, and they have to live their life that way, and that's the consequence of being a criminal. Innocent people, don't have to live that way, generally speaking. But if we put innocent people in a situation where they're constantly being forced to be scrutinized by the police, and anything that falls out of that scrutiny that is suspicious gets prosecuted, we put them in a position where they have to think the way a criminal thinks. They have to constantly consider every email they send, every file they put in their laptop, everything that they do with their computer. If I got searched at the border and somebody found this, would they misinterpret it? Could this be suspicious? Maybe I shouldn't have this on my computer. Maybe I should delete it, even if it's perfectly legal. Because I just don't want to answer questions about it. I don't want, and so people become, they self-censor. They have this sort of internal policeman who constrains their actions, and it actually diminishes their life. If you talk to people who lived in Eastern Europe, under the socialist regime there, talk about people who lived in East Germany, and the way they always had to look over their shoulder, the way they always had to worry about, what their neighbors were thinking about what they were doing and who might be reporting things to the Stasi. This is not something that we want to live with. And the Fourth Amendment helps us not live with that, because it creates a barrier, and it says the police will investigate people that they have a reason to investigate, and everyone else that they're going to leave alone. And that's how you create a free society. That's what I think. So that's why I think this is important. So that's my presentation, and I'm sure that there are questions and there are probably comments. So thanks.
Yeah, one of the interesting, from the other side, I worked in information security for Georgia Tech, and one of the issues we're looking at right now is we send professors over to conferences in other countries, and we're having to deal with corporate and government-sponsored espionage on projects that may be under disclosure laws. So we have to worry about, hey, you go into China, they say, could we look at your laptop, please? And it comes back with a Trojan on it. So when they bring it back to the office, it's actually sending out passwords and they're getting into our systems. That's becoming a real threat.
Mm-hmm.
So from one perspective, yeah, I want the hackers to come up with the tools that we can use to protect them.
There's some validity to that perspective that we get to control U.S. policy. We don't get to control the Chinese policy. Now I do believe that we're going to have trouble arguing that the Chinese shouldn't be searching laptops if we're doing it. But even if we do decide that we're not going to search laptops, the Chinese might still search laptops, it's something that we need to be concerned about anyway. And you're right, TrueCrypt. I don't want to rain on TrueCrypt. I don't think it's crap. It has legitimate purposes. I just don't think this is one of them.
Well, I agree with you that what we should really be attacking is the real problem, which is bad policy. You don't try to manipulate policy by coming up with a defensive technology. I totally agree with that. However, at the same time, I need that to defend myself against other people who play by no rules.
Yeah.
And I have no influence over their policy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, be advised that if I get your laptop, I'll find your TrueCrypt. And so far, no one has developed, and I don't think it's really we could have an intellectual conversation about this, maybe at Hacking 201 later tonight, about whether or not it's possible to architect something that is not discoverable, but everything that everyone has built so far I can find.
Not once you tell anybody else about it.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could bake your own stenography, but then again, if you bake your own steganography, then you run the risk that you haven't been peer-reviewed, and so you might have made a stupid mistake.
Just speaking to the idea of developing tools for all this and everything, I mean, in the popular literature in corporate IT right now, companies that have mature VPN infrastructures already are telling their, not just law firms, they're telling all of their big companies are telling their employees, travel with a clean laptop, VPN into the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they do it for many reasons. This guy over here.
Okay, so your argument was basically even if you did have have some kind of program that was undetectable and all that, and all they could tell on your laptop was maybe you had a bunch of random data and that was kind of suspicious on there because there was no partitions or anything. It would still be unpleasant because they could put you in a back room and interrogate you.
If they suspect that you're hiding or you're lying to them, then they can make your life uncomfortable, yeah.
What exactly, how far can they go with that? Or I'm not more appropriate to address to the...
Can I answer it and then you answer it? But the worst case that I've heard of is the case from 1985 where that woman was... They suspected she had swallowed cocaine balloons. And so what they did is they threw her in an office. And they threw her in the office for... they basically gave her a garbage can to go to the bathroom in, and they left her in there for an entire day. You know, I mean, they held her for 3 days, I think, all told. And eventually what happened is that she, you know, did in fact swallow cocaine balloons. And so that push came to shove and they put her in jail. You know, I don't know of a situation where, you know, they've tried to do that to someone and there was no evidence, and so they continue to push the button. You know, I think eventually, at some point, you know, they're going to release you because because there's nothing for them to continue to push you on. But you know, really, I'm quite certain that they can't detain you without reasonable suspicion. If they're detaining you at that point, they've got at least some reason that they think you're shifty. It's not just because they did it at random. What do you think, Tammy?
Yeah, we don't. I've actually participated in a couple of people who swallowed drugs, and we take you to the hospital for that now.
I'm sorry, that case was pretty egregious. I realize that's not usually what happens.
I mean, in 1985 we still in kindergarten, so I'm sure it's changed.
I don't think that that's usually their policy. It was just a pretty bad case, and that's why it went to the Supreme Court.
Like an officer might, generally an officer will do things, and if there's anything else and they want to detain you, we have to turn you over to an agent. An agent is like a detective and we're like regular cops. Customs officers don't have the power to arrest you. Or we can't detain you, and we can turn you over to an agent who can arrest you. But basically, every couple of hours we have to report to chief counsel and to our supervisors, court records, blah, blah, blah. If we have no reason to hold you, we can't hold you. You know, if someone looks at your laptop and we ask you a lot of questions and everything's making sense and everything gels, we're not just going to hold you for granted. I mean, at least in my court, I don't know about other places might be a little more strict. If we're really going through it, not finding something, we're not going to let you go. We have to have a good reason. And usually reasonable suspicion can just be where you came from. If we look in your passport, you have a slot stamps from wherever, Saudi Arabia, you know, Yemen, whatever. That's reasonable suspicion enough to just start going through your stuff. But if everything gels, everything's legit.
So let's say someone comes in with a laptop and you ask for a password and he says, this doesn't have any data on it. You open it, you look into it, you don't see any data, but it's all random data. No OS, no programs or anything, and you're suspicious that there might be something on there encrypted.
We would have to, we have what we call articulable facts. We have to articulate to, generally, if I open someone's computer and I think that there's something fishy about it, especially if it, you know, because we're not going to kind of open your computer and go, that looks fishy, and start going, we're going to ask you questions. Why were you, what's in this laptop? Why were you there? Whatever. Depending on the person. We have to turn to our supervisor and say, you know, I have to articulate this guy went here or whatever. I have to tell him concrete reasons why I want a further detention, I want a further search, I want a possible seizure. I can't say, well, this guy looks shifty.
If you read the customs policy on laptop searches, what they do say is that they're allowed to ask for interagency help on decryption. So if they looked at your laptop and they said, we don't understand it, then what they may do is seize it and send you on your way, and they hand it over to the NSA or somebody for analysis, and then yeah. I mean, according to the policy, they can seize it without individualized suspicion. Now, Chertoff says that they actually won't do that they will only seize it if they have some reason to suspect you. He just doesn't want that to be a legal standard because then he's got to defend it in court. But then again, you know, are we a country of what Chertoff says, or are we a country of laws? But, you know, this person.
So how far are we away from business and government and whatever laptops where the hard drive just pops out and either you put in one that's blank and is easily to boot up and easily go through and you mail the laptop, or conversely, you just take the whole laptop with you? You just take the hard drive with you, leave the laptop, get another one there, pop it in, and then run it.
Well, then they'll take your hard drive at the border and they'll put it in their laptop and they'll figure it out.
So how far are we away from just mailing the laptop that has anything interesting on it?
Well, they can open packages. They can open packages. They can't open letters. So.
Clean laptop is already a settled term that is normally used.
Yeah. I mean, corporations are deploying policies where they say you need to have a clean travel laptop, and that is in response to this policy as well as policies of other countries.
Like the DVD drives, how far are we away from just swapping those out?
I mean, there may be a market opportunity here to serve corporations that want a clean laptop policy and provide them with technology like you're talking about to make it easy for them to do so. It's interesting. That's another sort of technology versus policy question. If this becomes established and the Supreme Court decides that these searches are reasonable, and other countries, we know that Canada does this. I don't know how many countries do this, but certainly I know that Canada does. If enough countries sign on to this and corporate IT starts reacting to it, then you could end up with a situation where there's a market for technology that serves it. I'm trying to figure out who is like the next person. Go ahead, because you had your hand up earlier.
I'm assuming that you read Slashdot, right?
Yeah, on occasion.
Well, have you read the article about the person that was detained had BGP encryption on his hard drive?
No. Detained where or by who?
At an airport, and he was suspected to have child pornography. And they accidentally turned his laptop off, and then he refused to give them the password, and the judge upheld him not having to give them their password.
No, I haven't heard about that. That's very interesting.
It was on Slashdot.
How long ago? A week or two ago. Okay, I was out of the country, so I should try to figure that out. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll try to dig that up. You don't remember a name or anything associated with it, or it was PGP specifically? Interesting. Okay, I'll try to track that down. That's a new development. Okay, you in the back, and then I'll get you.
For example, if you go to the Winnipeg airport prior to come back to the United States, the U.S. Customs checkpoint is in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
When does the Fourth Amendment attach?
That's an interesting question. You are a U.S. person, you're a U.S. citizen, and the U.S. government is inspecting you. So I think that the Fourth Amendment, in my view, and again, this is an interesting question. I don't really know the answer to this question, okay? I don't think anyone really knows the answer, and it's debatable. But in my opinion, the Fourth Amendment applies to you because you are a U.S. person and you're dealing with the U.S. government. The question is, the problem is that it doesn't matter because all searches are reasonable because you're at the border. So, it does you little good. But nevertheless, your Fourth Amendment. I think your rights are the same. But this is an interesting question because of Guantanamo Bay, and there was recently. The Supreme Court handed down a decision quite recently, as sort of, I essentially upending this, but the reason that they put Guantanamo Bay in Guantanamo Bay instead of putting it in Florida was to create this jurisdictional arbitrage where they could say that they're not in the United States, and so the same rules of, due process don't apply as they would if they were in the United States. And I think that the Supreme Court essentially said that the U.S. has been sovereign and control of Guantanamo Bay for 100 years, and so the rules are not different than they would be in Florida. But that was the argument that was made for quite some time. So in general, that question is interesting.